Hello and welcome back to Radio Gagan. It's Nick here today. I'm joined with Gagan Mahindra, and we will be diving into how the new Labour frontbench are doing, how the new Tory frontbench are doing, farming tax, assisted dying, and the US election. Gagan, welcome back.
Cool, thank you for having me once again.
No worries, no worries.
So where do you want me to start? Should I start on the Labour government?
Yeah, Labour frontbench. How do you think they're getting on? What are your thoughts?
As listeners will be aware, Louise Haigh has resigned. She's the first cabinet casualty of the Keir Starmer government. I think most people had other names that they thought would be resigning first. But the more you read about what Louise is alleged to have done, the more worried I think I get. I think it's worth remembering that while the crime happened before she became an MP, she was a special constable, and from my understanding it was her employer at the time that put it to the police, which suggests this was more of a pattern of behaviour rather than just a one-off. I know she was found, well, she admitted guilt to one offence, but it feels like there was probably more to this story than is in the public domain at the moment. So I think the headlines today are talking about whether she's going to take her ministerial severance pay. I know that the Labour Party, when we were in government, were very vocal about ministers who served short term in cabinet positions or ministerial positions should waive their redundancy or their additional payoff. I don't know whether Louise will do that, but it's probably one to keep on people's radar to see, actually, is this Labour government good value for money?
Would that be a personal choice or Labour's choice?
So I think Keir has done what he normally does, which is kick it to someone else to deal with, and it sounds like he's put the onus on Louise to make that decision, which is a very different approach to how he was when he was leader of the opposition.
That's understandable. And obviously, coming back to the Conservatives now, how do you think the new Tory frontbench are doing? With Kemi in place after the leadership election, how do you feel like she's getting on?
So I think the vibe and progress is going really well. I think we're being realistic. Kemi did a great speech on immigration last week, saying how when we were in government, we weren't as good as we should have been. And I think a time of reflection is absolutely required for us as a party. The mood in the Parliamentary Party seems in a good place. We see the Labour Party imploding and further tensions within their ranks, and it's just nice to see that others are seeing how difficult it is to govern. It's very easy to be in opposition and claim you're going to solve it, but when you've got a Labour government who's been in power for just over 5 months, claiming they're going to do another reset, it shows that just saying you've got a plan is not enough. You actually need to follow that up with deeds and actions. And we were saying that on the doorsteps in my area during the general election, saying be careful when Labour are talking about change. Do you really know what that means? Is there any substance to what their ambition is? Things like the 1.5 million homes that they're hoping to achieve in this Parliament. To date, I've not seen any plans on how they hope to achieve that. And I'm on the look on the select committee, and we'll be looking into that. And even when Labour MPs on that select committee are voicing concern, it shows that actually the Labour government is not hiding things from us as an opposition. They're just not telling anyone what they're doing. So for a government that was mandated to be transparent, I think there's a large element of non-transparency that we need to get down to the bottom of, so people know what the future holds for them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially with the public being promised false hope. And it's definitely evident now with the petition that came out last week. Millions of UK citizens have decided they want a new election because they're not happy with the government now. So that false deal is definitely in place with that.
Yeah, just so on that, we will have a Westminster Hall debate. The reality, unfortunately, is that the leadership of the Labour Party will just ignore the result in the debate. We are a democratic country, and it's those decisions made at the ballot box. We've seen from previous elections, whether that's Brexit or even when the Conservatives had a majority, they are we're not always as unified as a country as we want. I think there is a large element of buyer's remorse with those that may not have voted for the Labour Party but maybe sat on their hands, and the unintended consequences of those decisions, whether they're voting for fringe parties or not turning out to vote, has meant that Sir Keir has a super majority and therefore can push through a lot of very, 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 in my view, unpalatable legislation. We as an opposition will do our duty of calling it out and bringing it to the public's attention, but given the parliamentary numbers, it's going to be a difficult task.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that again. But looking into the farming tax, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm honestly shocked by how they've, on the one hand, spoken about food security and how important it is for us in an unsafe world, and at the same time destroying generations worth of multi-generational businesses. Their impact assessment has been found to be lacking, and when you're implementing policy, you should do a thorough impact assessment to make sure you know the consequences. I think from what I'm hearing around Parliament is that there's a lot of Labour MPs that are very worried. We have an Opposition Day debate on Wednesday of this week, when one of the topics we will be debating is the family farming tax. And that's put a lot of new Labour MPs in rural constituencies under a lot of pressure, because their constituents are rightly up in arms and angry about this new tax that was not on the radar, and how they respond, whether they support their constituents or follow the party line, will be quite interesting to see.
Yeah, it's generally just biting the hand that feeds you, in my opinion. So yeah, that's the way I look at it. Yeah, so farming tax, and now, obviously assisted dying just went through. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it was a really, really difficult topic. We voted on this as a private members' bill last Friday. There was a lot of passionate speeches, and it's one that I could have fallen on either side of the debate. I ended up voting against Kim Ledbetter's private members' bill, because I thought for such an important topic, not allowing proper government time to actually have a debate and using the private members' bill as a way of discussing it was not the right approach. There were various contributions which suggested there could be wholesale changes of the legislation in latter stages of the debate and how it goes through the different processes of legislation. From my limited experience, I think that's quite difficult to do, but time will tell. There'll be further opportunities to debate this topic. Obviously, it still needs to go to the House of Lords as well, and they'll have some strong views on this.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Looking into the US election now, the UK's special relationship with the US has always been a massive thing in the world. And what are your opinions on President-elect Trump being back in office for the second time?
So, I'm actually happy and an optimist. I think the fact that President-elect Trump has such a clear mandate has meant that the fear of internal civil war in the US on a tight election result is definitely abated. If you speak to Americans about the time when he was first president, a lot of them felt better off than they did under Biden. The world, and this is in some ways regurgitating Trump's lines, the world was a safer place when he was president. My only word of caution is that because it's a 4-year term, while the world may be more secure over 4 years, we care about longevity and sustainability. And the US is a major influence on global decisions, whether that's Ukraine, Russia, or the Middle East. So making sure that it's just not a sticking plaster that survives over 4 years during his tenure, it's going to be the challenge to make sure that we're pushing for long-term sustainable solutions to some very, very difficult challenges.
And off of that, how do you think the UK will communicate with President-elect Trump? Do you think stuff will be going through Farage, or do you think David Lammy will be in the play? What is it? What are your thoughts?
So, if I was a fly on the wall, I think Trump is very much a transactional politician. and he will work with whoever. He does have a memory, so I think it's brave of Labour politicians to either double down on some of the criticism they had of him when he first was president on their social media platforms. I do think that while we may not agree with some people's politics, if they have a democratic mandate, it's our duty as a fellow democracy to work alongside those with shared values. So I think Nigel's a colleague in. He's a fellow member of Parliament. It's always intriguing to see him walking around and contributing in Parliament, because I think he still has one eye on spending time in the US. He says that he has a very close relationship with Trump, but President Trump will meet a lot of people. Boris was very, very close to Trump as well. So there are multiple avenues into the presidency and hoping to get influence. My motivation as a UK parliamentarian is to make sure that the UK has the best possible working relationship with the US, because they're so important to us. Whether that's Lammy or Forge or another, I'm not too fussed about the individual names.
That's very understandable. And now looking into Christmas, any fun plans coming up?
Well, as you know, Nick, we've got Team Christmas lunch at the end of term.
Yeah.
So let's see what you guys all dress up as. But no, Christmas and New Year's is a time of just spending a bit of quality time back in the patch, but also with friends and family. So it's just a nice opportunity to recharge the batteries and actually think about the year ahead. So I've already put the Christmas tree up. Admittedly, no baubles or anything up yet. That's more of a job for others in the family. But no, Christmas has a lot of fond memories for me, so I'm looking forward to it, and probably some bad TV and loads of food over the festive period.
Yeah, same here. Well, amazing, Gagan. Thank you for joining us today. And to everyone listening, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we will be back in January. All the best.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.